Welcome to the Farm to School podcast, where you will hear stories of how youth thrive and farmers prosper when we grow, cook, and eat delicious, nutritious local foods in schools across the country and the world.
We're your hosts. I'm Rick Sherman.
And I'm Michelle Markestein.
Okay, so thank you everybody for coming. And today we're going all the way, halfway across the country to College Station, Texas.
Yay, Texas.
To Texas A&M University. And we're going to talk to our good friend Randy Seagraves.
Hi, Randy.
With Texas A&M. Now, Randy, do you live in College Station, as it were? Is that where
we are? Texas A&M is the land-grant university, so there's several satellite campuses throughout our state, but our flagship, the home campus, is here in College Station.
Okay. All right. Good deal. And Randy, what is it that you do there at Texas A&M University?
Well, my job specifically with Junior Master Gardener is serving as the curriculum coordinator. And I always have to admit to people, my background is not horticulture, but it's the education side of that fence. So my background specifically before jumping into this Junior Master Gardener extension world was teaching third graders at a public school here in College Station.
Okay. And so Junior Master Gardener. Now, is that is that the head of the nationwide program then for the country?
Junior Master Gardener has grown. It's a little bit different than what you see with the Master Gardener program. The Master Gardener world, for folks who are familiar with Master Gardeners, those programs each have autonomy, at the state level, and they create their own program and curriculum. They have different mandates of how they have individuals go through and be taught and contribute service back to the agency to have that. But what's different about Junior Master Gardener is we manage a program office, the national program office, and now an international program with some of our partners that we have. And we have folks that serve as state level coordinators in 38 states across the country so far.
Okay, 38 states. I'm glad you said that. That was going to be my next question, was how many states have it. So 38. So they're not in all 50 as we speak so much. But
we have partnerships and leaderships where we have those agencies in those 38 states have program partnerships with us. But as far as having groups in operation, we do have Junior Master Gardener groups and classes that are operating in all 50 states and additionally with 4 countries across our great planet as well.
So, and Junior Master Gardener, and I'm glad you did the segue and made the differentiation between a regular Master Gardener, which I am one. I know that was a process to do that, and I did it online in my state back in 2011. So, what is the age group Junior Master Gardener targets?
Well, and I'm glad you came back to the Master Gardener as a starting point, because the Master Gardener program really is our model. A Junior Master Gardener is the kid version of the Master Gardener program. And as you know, Rick, if you've gone through the program back in 2011, you said, there is a process where you got trained, and usually those trainings happen in a local extension office. There's some type of a formula that you have to give service hours back to your state or your county level extension agency, and those are approved. And that combination of training and service hours is what awards those adults a Master Gardener certification. So it's very similar in the Junior Master Gardener world. This truly is the kid version of that. So instead of a kid coming to an extension office, typically about 3/4 of our groups operate as classes. And those teachers serve as the leaders using Junior Master Gardener curriculum. There's one more jumping point of them having this foundation of leadership skill, life skill development that's included within our program. But then we do go back to that service learning, that leadership component as well. And once kids have all of those components, they can earn a full-fledged certification as a Junior Master Gardener or one of the other recognition certifications built into the curriculum.
Yeah, I imagine that is such. I know how I felt all this pride when I was able to say I'm a Master Gardener. So for a kid to say that too, and I don't think we got there, but I seem to remember, is it like 5th grade, that level? Is that what you target?
It ranges, and you'll have to corral me, Rick, because I'll get on tangents sometimes, and then I'll have to be brought back to a question of the starting point.
That's fine.
But to answer your question, our program started, and what's crazy about this, we've been in this business for a while, and you in the same boat, but Junior Master Gardener is about to celebrate its 25th anniversary. And when we first began, it was geared towards this level 1, Junior Master Gardener level 1, which was specifically geared towards a 3rd through 5th grade range of kids. And that was initially established because as you're working on curriculum development, anybody who does that kind of work, there's correlations, that you have to have in place, national level and state level correlations, alignments to standards, and such those correlations happen. But you know what happens with teachers, Rick, if there's some kind of curriculum effort that's in place that's good, teachers will use it and potentially adapt it up and down depending on the age of the kid.
Mm-hmm. But
specifically, it was geared towards that 3rd through 5th grade range of kid. So that's the bulk of our audience. We have several different curriculum publications that are for that range, but we also have 2 publications that are teacher guides for middle school, junior high kids. So that's a 6th through 8th grade range. But then we started backing up a bit, and we last year had the first release of our first early childhood curriculum. That really specifically geared towards a pre-K kinder and really a super narrow range targeting towards 4 and 5-year-olds.
I didn't know that. And so I know this is a large question, saying that you went through that whole range of pre-K all the way to middle school now, junior high. But what are some of the typical things these ranges of kids learn in JMG?
Well, it's all over the place. So one thing I'll just kind of share with anybody who's done teacher kind of work, there's lots of curriculum that's out there that will literally say the target audience is 1st grade through 8th grade. And that's a pretty wide range, guys, for what we're talking about, trying to serve an audience. So trying to make it a little more narrow to be developmentally appropriate for the kid that we're working on. But it kind of depends. The initial curriculum that we had in place, the Junior Master Gardener Teacher Leader Guide, and there's a youth handbook that goes along with that. It really is comprehensive, and that is even modeled after the Adult Master Gardener handbook. So the comprehensiveness of Chapter 1 being plant growth and development, and Chapter 2 soils and water, and Chapter 3 ecology, environmental horticulture, and 4 being insect and plant diseases, and so on. So after that, there were some theme-based curriculum. One of our earliest one was a wildlife gardener, and that was a partnership with the National Wildlife Federation. So kids who complete that one can earn a certification to become a wildlife gardener. After that was probably my favorite curriculum, was called Literature in the Garden, and it's all these great garden and nutrition and science and social studies lessons that come from some great children's book, read aloud, that has some kind of a gardening theme to it as well. But the coolest thing is the most recent curriculum is built around this theme called Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go. And we had some great resources. We had some USDA grants that helped us to develop and research this initial curriculum, again, still geared towards that elementary audience. But my gosh, this thing included all these different components of garden education and food exposures and some nutrition science, but also some physical activity kind of games and some fantastic research that came from that to show what these benefits really, really, truly are. So because of that successful research, we stepped back and created the starting point of the early childhood curriculum as well. So the early childhood Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go is the most recent curriculum.
So that's interesting. There's so much of this I didn't know because I wasn't in the Junior Master Gardener program ever, nor have I taught it or anything like that. So it sounds like what you're saying is there's a whole bunch of different tracks. Depending on the age level, the grade, or what you want to teach, you can go a bunch of different directions then, I guess. Is that correct?
We've done lots of curriculum development work, and what we've really learned is going from a starting point of having that very super comprehensive curriculum resource that teachers use, and from that initial teacher leader guide, students can earn that full-fledged certification of being a certified Junior Master Gardener, or there could be smaller bite-sized certifications students could earn, such as in plant growth and development or in soils and water, that type of thing. But a lot of times working with teachers, they would come up like, well, how long does it take to complete the program? And the answer was, well, it depends. It's like, what do you want to do with it? And it was kind of this menu format of how teachers step through it. The last 2 curriculum have been a shift on how we develop content, and it has been to make it more teacher friendly and be more linear based. So instead of having 450 total lessons that make up that teacher guide and the kids handbook in the first volley of curriculum, we now have that elementary Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go. And there are 10 weeks of lessons, 2 lessons per week. And that is a heck of a lot easier for teachers to be able to tackle and build into their schedule this linear step-by-step basis that builds on each other, as opposed, to moving through this wide range of resource, and they can kind of pick and choose what they want to do to get through it.
And you had mentioned research-based, evidence-based curriculum for Learn, Grow, Eat, and Go. Can you tell us, what does that mean?
There was a big part of the grant that we were able to get on doing the research side of that from USDA was spent on research. And so there was about a 1,600 volley of kids that were a part of this research study in different sites and districts across the state here in Texas. And these were Title I communities. So we're talking about in the lower economic scale, from more urban areas to more rural areas and coastal areas all over the place. And so we had research that took place over a few years, and it was substantial. And so some of the things we talk about are just getting teacher input and kids' responses and marking progress, but also incorporated some of the interviews with parents and even scales of kids, being able to get on weight scales and body fat measures. So there were researchers from University of Texas that were a part of wiping these elementary kids' feet off and having them set on these DEXA scanners that were able to be able to analyze the body fat. And so some of the great things about this, I mean, the three of us on this discussion now know about these benefits of gardening and what you get from it. But we have more data that shows that it's not just the cool, warm, fuzzy things of kids being exposed to gardens and plants and being able to appreciate more of these vegetables and other benefits they get from being in the gardens. There's real data that shows that these kids' body mass index numbers improve from before and after using this curriculum. And that is a huge starting point, potentially, to jumping up and to get more funds supporting further development of the program. So separate from those measures, one of the great data points that I really love, because I used to be in this world teaching these 8 and 9-year-olds, and 8 and 9-year-olds are great kids, but sometimes they're not always great about follow through, not always great about getting papers home to moms and dads. And so one of the great things we saw from the research of this study that happened several years ago was kids were taking their learning that happened in the classroom and having it take place at home. So these food exposures, these recipe demonstrations, we have data that shows that kids were taking these recipes home, and kids in these lower income communities even were shopping with their parents to get these groceries and get this produce and producing these recipes together and working in the garden together. So that crossover into the home was some of the most exciting data that I've been able to be a part of a project, because you're not impacting just that kid's life and that kid's future, but you're impacting the larger family unit of improving these health practices at home.
Okay.
That's amazing.
I'm thinking that a teacher, like I'm a local teacher and I want to do junior master gardener, but then two questions up. The first part is like, where do I go? That's the one thing to learn more, to sign up, my classroom, whatever. And the other part is I'm just guessing that teachers are going to say to me, oh, every minute of my class time is taken up for our curriculum we're already doing. How can I fit junior master gardener into what I'm doing right now? Can you speak to any, like, where do I go? And
yes, my friend. Yes. And that point, that question of teachers being consumed and everything coming at them and every minute being valuable is probably the biggest thing that we get to respond to. So the initial study that we had done as a part of the original curriculum was great because it incorporated 2 semesters of content. And what we did from that, the data we got from that was really distill that 2-semester curriculum down to this 10 weeks, 2 lessons per week. So we're talking about 20 lessons of time. And what's great about that is even those teachers that are busy and their schedules are full, if we're able to pull them into a teacher training workshop and they start looking at this type of a curriculum, they get to take part in these hands-on, experiences as a part of a workshop, they're like, wait a minute, my kids would love this. We can make this happen. I can do this. Is kind of the response. And that I can do it response is what we really live for now, because sometimes just making these connections and introductions. If some of the districts we work with are so super scheduled, and some are that way, exactly what you're saying, like literally every minute of every day across an entire district is really uniform. And some of these districts we work with, it's because there's some transient populations that go from campus to campus, So if you're teaching 3rd grade and you do fractions your first month of school, but another teacher on the other side of the district, they may do fractions in the middle of the school year, right? Okay. If they don't match up, some kids will have gaps in their learning. So those kinds of systems are the hardest ones to kind of get into. Okay. But even in those systems, there's ways to get through, but you've got to get an administrative connection and buy-in to be able to start making some room for that. And we've got ways we've been able to be successful on that front as well.
What's one thing you'd like everyone to know? What's something they could take away from this?
Well, kind of referring back to the starting point of our conversation here, is that we're still new. We've been around for a while, but we're still new and to a lot of people in this youth gardening world. And so we have a staff of 4 full-time people, but we also have a larger staff of people who work at the state and county level to reach our group. So here's my challenge for both of you, for your listeners. If they are not already familiar with Junior Master Gardener, I would think a great starting point would be a segue to that Learn, Grow, Eat, Go curriculum, either for the elementary side or the early childhood side, because it is very, very easy to follow. And what's great about it is it brings in all those components of introducing to kids in a student-led garden project effort of what plants are, why they are important, and how we provide for their needs and how they can provide for our needs. So every aspect of them doing garden work, to selecting a garden site, doing site evaluations, to the garden builds, to sharing schedules for maintenance, is built in the student-led component. So over that 10-week period of time, there's the basis for a long-term sustainable garden project that can be established. So my advice is to have them give that Learn, Grow, Eat, Go. If they're not already familiar with the Junior Master Gardener program, have them give that Learn, Grow, Eat, Go curriculum a try and see if they think it's a good fit for their kids.
And I do see locally here where we're from, I do see those workshops you're talking about like, hey, try on JMG in your classroom for teacher workshops or whatever. But so where is
we
there?
Have those, and it just depends.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, and so one thing we really worked on trying to do is, since that phase of time that we had during the COVID phase, right, where people were learning at a distance, is we developed these online learning systems. And for the first year past COVID, we came back together for our annual national leader training. So those people would come to us here in our university town, and we would spend a few days with them. It really is developing some all-encompassing knowledge about the program and how to implement and build long-term sustainable programs. But what was great about it was the year after that, we went back to a virtual format, because in our world of extension, of trying to reach audiences and trying to keep costs accessible for folks, we were able to expand our reach. So each year we've come close to increase by a third or to 50% of our audience because it's virtual. So I'll tell your audience too that the third week of February every year we have our virtual national leader training. And if they will search the Junior Master Gardener webpage, Junior Master Gardener through Google or jmgkids.us, there'll be a header at the top of that during this range of time for the Junior Master Gardener National Leader Training. And in fact, we just posted a call for proposals right now. If people are interested in checking that out, we'd love to have some other folks be participants in the call.
Oh, great.
Okay, and I'll sure post a link to that in our show notes as well. And that was going to be my next question. What's your website? I think you just told me that. So I could go there to learn more about Junior Master Gardener in my state, correct?
Sure, you could search it. There is a state coordinator. The Oregon Extension is a great partner, and some states have larger Junior Master Gardeners and the offices, and others do. But just check it out. The contacts for your state coordinator are going to be there as well. And then also checking out Junior Master Gardener on social media. That's a great way to keep up with events and happenings and opportunities within our program.
Well, thank you, Randy. This was so
insightful.
Awesome to hear.
Yeah.
We love Junior Master Gardener, so we appreciate all of your hard
work.
Well,
I know we're preaching to the choir, we're preaching to the choir with this audience, but there are so many incredible long-term sustainable benefits kids get. And if teachers, if these leaders that we're talking to right now are not the ones making introductions, we're not getting those connections made. So we always tell our teachers that they are the ones who are growing the next generations of gardeners. And people typically have individuals they remember as being the first person who connected them to gardens. And what's happening now is teachers themselves are more likely to be that one, because there's fewer and fewer and fewer kids that are doing that and getting that at home. When I first began with this program, it was because of a connection with our school district had a professional development opportunity for teachers. And because I was doing some school gardening programming in my classroom, the school would connect you to people. And, since we are in a university town, there's all kinds of individuals who happen to be experts in certain areas. And one of the areas I got to be plugged into was a dead chicken composting. And it was a soil scientist. And when these facilities are using these animal carcasses, they have a system being able to degrade these systems into soil matter again, right? That was one of them. But the one that I plugged into that I was just on fire about was they connected me to go observe somebody who was teaching a horticulture technician program at a women's prison camp. So as a third grade teacher, I went and got background screened and thumbprints, fingerprint screening, and showed up at this prison camp to meet the instructor, who is Lisa Whittlesey. And as we met, we connected and we really hit it off. And what was kind of cool about this connection point, at lunch, we talked about what worked with our students, what were successes we had, what were benefits that we saw. And what was amazing is that those same benefits that I saw with my 8 and 9-year-olds, she saw with her adult female offenders. Some were in their young 20s, and some were in their senior adult years, right? And so this connection point was incredible. And what she was talking about was taking some starting points of junior master gardener programs that were happening at county levels for years in our state, and trying to formalize that to be a program that she can have some kids gardening efforts that they could have, because as these young kids of these female offenders that were her students at this prison camp, they were able to come on site periodically. So she wanted to have some programming for those kids and those moms to be able to do. So I said, you know what, whenever you get funding for this program, because she's a big idea person, whenever you get funding for this, let me know, and we'd love to be a pilot site. I'd love my classroom to be a pilot site of this Junior Master Gardener program idea. So she calls me, it was about December, later that year, and she basically calls to offer me a job to be curriculum coordinator. And as you know, people who work in the school world, you don't leave your job at mid-year to do something else. So basically, I had to finish out my school year for teaching third grade. I wasn't ready to quit my job as a teacher, but what happened was that they figured out a way for the university to basically give me a sabbatical, and they reimbursed the district my salary for a year. Then we were just doing nothing but curriculum development. So my starting point is not, like I said, horticulture. It's in the curriculum development side, but we know it works with kids. Yeah. But I have to say that me, and who is now the program coordinator for Junior Master Gardener, we met in a women's prison camp. And I always like to use that. And whenever a speaking engagement together, that's the opening starting point of how we was in a women's prison.
It's interesting how life turns out sometimes, isn't it? Wow, that's a great story.
That's right.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, it's so important for kids to know where their food comes from, and this could be a very big part of that. So thanks again, Randy, so much for being on the show today.
Thanks,
Thank
Randy.
you for inviting me to this space. I appreciate your time, and you guys keep up the amazing work that you're doing.
Okay, we'll do that.
You too. Farm to School podcast was written, directed, and produced by Rick Sherman and Michelle Markiston, with production support from Leanne Lochner at Oregon State University. Thank you, Leanne.
This grant was made possible by a grant by the United States Department of Agriculture. The content and ideas for the Farm to School podcast does not necessarily reflect the opinions of Oregon State University, Oregon Department of Education, and the United States Department of Agriculture. The USDA, Oregon Department of Education, and Oregon State University are equal opportunity providers and employers.
Do you want to learn more about Farm to School? Check out our other episodes, show notes, and our contact information by Googling up Farm to School Podcast OSU.
And you'll find us. Stop by that website that Michelle just talked about.
Yeah.
We would love to hear from you. Stop by and say hello or give us an idea for a future podcast.
Thanks, everyone.
That's it, everybody. Thank you. See you next time.